In this lesson, we'll explore how to add a recess above the upper lip in addition to adding more visual interest to other wrinkles and recesses of our concept's face. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so let's go ahead and bring up our concept sketch from lesson 2. So here we can see I sketched in kind of a recess just right above the upper lip, just above the mouth there. And so we want to work that in here on our character concept. And then we also want to focus on some other areas, such as these lines right here, just kind of where the cheeks are. We just want to kind of push those a little bit more to really push the overall facial expression. Again, he's starting to look really vicious, really angry. We want to intensify that, keep pushing that further. And then another recess area that we really want to focus on is this cavity right here, the opening of the nostril. It's looking a little bit thin right now. We may want to go back into liquify and just kind of open it up, flare it open just a little bit more. Again, this really does add to the overall expression, the overall emotion that our character is conveying. Okay, so let's go ahead and hide the visibility of our concept sketch, and you'll notice we have yet again another group, and I've just titled it Recess and Wrinkles, and we're starting with another merged head. Okay, so on our merged copy layer, let's grab our lasso tool and let's explore how we can basically build that recess. So there's a number of different ways that we could do this, and this is just one way that we could go about it. So I'm just going to lasso from this right here, this little shadow area of the cheek, okay? And once I've made my selection, I'm just going to right click within the selection and go to Layer via Copy. Excellent. Let's go ahead and now free transform that. And this is basically going to be the base of our recess. So once we've got that, right below about the tip of the nose, we can kind of hold down Shift and just kind of make it a little bit smaller. And now let's go ahead and right click and go to Warp while still in free transform mode. And I'm going to make kind of the top of it a little bit smaller. Okay. And then let's go ahead and go back to free transform mode. And I'm thinking about the light source at this point. So our light source is coming from over here off the screen left. And we want that to be basically match up if we're adding a recess into this area. So let's go ahead and right click and go to flip horizontal. All right. So we would have a shadow on this side, and then of course on this side we would have light. So I'm starting to think about that. So I'm going back to warp now, and we can kind of continue to warp this overall recess. I'm just kind of fine-tuning it where I want it, and that looks about right. Let's go ahead and commit to that change. Okay, excellent. So what I want to do now is kind of start to blend this in. So I'm going to grab my healing brush tool. I'm going to make sure that I have it set to all layers still in my control panel. And we're going to want to start to basically blend this in. Okay? So I'm just going to sample from just kind of right around it. I just kind of start to blend that overall shape, that overall form that we've dropped in there. Just kind of coming along both sides there. All right, excellent, excellent. Okay, so that's looking really nice. We may want to grab our eraser tool, kind of clean up the bottom there just slightly. And now I really want to kind of push that highlight even further. But before we do that, let's go ahead and give this layer a name. I'm just going to call it upper lip recess. Okay, excellent. Now I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. And we're going to basically on this layer grab our clone stamp tool right here. And we're going to use that to sample or basically clone in some more highlighted skin. So I'm just going to kind of grab from right here and just kind of start to work in some more highlighted skin. And again, the clone stamp doesn't work like the healing brush. It just straight up copies over pixels from one area to another. It's not trying to weave it in nicely like the healing brush. And I'm not worried about that just yet. But I still want that texture in there, that skin texture in there as I bring over this highlighted skin. Okay. So that's looking very nice. We can almost kind of zoom out there and we can really see that recess. That's looking so awesome. Really feel like that adds a lot to the character. But it's still looking very sharp right there in the center. So I just want to basically kind of blend that together. So now I'll grab my healing brush tool. And we'll kind of just start to blend this together. All right, so that's feeling really nice, and we can kind of continue to really tweak that as we go. Let's go ahead and give this layer a title as well. Again, I like to just kind of keep everything organized so I know what's what. So we'll just go ahead and call this layer Recess Highlight. All right, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead and add kind of an upper highlight just above the lip here. Okay, it's feeling just a little bit flat. I want to just give it a little bit more dimension. So let's go ahead and make a new layer. We'll grab our clone stamp. Let's reduce the size down considerably. All right. And let's go ahead and kind of sample from, again, a highlighted area and just kind of start to clone in that highlighted skin. And as I do this, I'm kind of watching that cursor where it's being sampled from, just so I can kind of see what I'm bringing over. So just kind of adding a little bit of an upper lip highlight that'll kind of come across the top of the lip. I don't want it to appear too flat. But again, we're just kind of thinking about adding a little bit of dimension, kind of cleaning up this area too a little bit. It's looking just a little off just to my eyes. All right, very nice. Let's go ahead and grab our eraser tool. And I'm just double checking my settings there. And just kind of fade that out just a little bit, kind of weaving it in. And then we can grab our healing brush tool and just kind of blend that in a little bit better. All right, awesome. I'm really liking how that's looking. That's looking really nice. We've made quite a difference already just working in that information. Okay, so we'll go ahead and title this layer Upper Lip Highlight. Next, we want to go ahead and focus on these cheek lines right here. We got kind of a little bit of a wrinkles, basically, that are formed from the cheeks just based off of his overall angry expression. So let's go ahead and go back to our merged copy layer. Grab our lasso tool over in our tool panel. I'm just going to select kind of this whole general area right here, this kind of very fleshy area of the cheek. Okay, so once we made our selection, we can go ahead, right click within the selection and go to Layer via Copy. All right, and so this is basically the right side of the face or the screen left. And so let's go ahead and give this layer a title, and we'll just call it Right Cheek. Okay, so once we've done that, let's go ahead and hit Control T and free transform this area. I'm just going to hold down Shift as we scale it up, kind of maintaining the overall dimensions just before we go in and right click again and kind of start to warp it just a little bit. So we're just kind of bringing it down, basically just kind of intensifying that overall line that's right there from the cheek. It really adds to the expression. We haven't even blended it in yet. I can already tell just what a difference it makes. Let's go ahead and commit to that change. We'll grab our eraser tool. We're using a soft round brush, if I recall, and we'll just kind of blend that in. Okay, that's looking very nice. We can just kind of see how that really adds to the overall expression, really intensifies his anger. Let's do the same thing with the opposite side. So just going back to our merged copy layer, just kind of grabbing the same general amount of skin there, and we'll do a layer via copy, and we'll call this left cheek. Okay, excellent. Let's go ahead and free transform And just basically the same process as before. We just kind of want to push that overall wrinkle line of the cheek. Again, it just makes him look a lot more aggressive, really pushes the expression. And that's what we're going for. A character that just appears very nasty and aggressive and angry. Very unfriendly looking kind of guy here. And just kind of blending that in with the eraser tool. It's looking really nice. Awesome. Let's go ahead now and kind of focus on that nostril of the nose there. Both of those nostrils really, as I mentioned, I kind of want to flare them out just a little bit more. I think that'll really, again, aid in some of the changes that we've made here. Okay, so we're going to go back to our merged copy layer. And let's jump up here to filter. And we're going to go to liquify once again. Let's zoom in here. All right, excellent. And we're going to make sure we're using our forward warp tool. And let's go ahead and check our settings. May want to bring up the brush density just a little bit. Our brush size seems appropriate, though we may want to go just a little bit larger. And let's just kind of start to pull up this nostril. Again, we want to flare it open. So we're just kind of getting in there, kind of pushing and pulling different areas, kind of pulling the lower area, pushing the upper area up, and we can already see what a difference that makes. Let's go and shrink our brush tip down just a little bit more, just so we can kind of get in there, get inside that nose. Very nice. And we'll kind of do the same thing on the opposite side, just kind of pull it up. And I think that makes a huge difference right there in adding to that very aggressive expression. Let's go ahead and click OK. Awesome. Looks very, very aggressive. So the last thing we want to do is just kind of work on some of the shadows here. And so we're going to go ahead and make a new layer, and we'll title it Shadows. Okay, excellent. So we basically want to kind of push some of these wrinkles, some of these little recesses a little bit further, just kind of push the shadows, making them just a little bit stronger. All right. So on our shadows layer, I'm just going to grab my brush tool, and let's kind of double check our brush tip. Let's go ahead and go with a hard round brush. We'll go to brush panel and set to transfer, and just making again sure we have our control set to pen pressure for opacity and flow. So what we can do is I'm just going to sample from kind of a darker area here, and we're going to just kind of start to kind of paint over some of these areas where we got kind of a shadow. Now what I'd like to do is explore some blend modes as we do this, because as we paint we are covering up some detail, and so I don't really want to cover up a lot of detail and start flattening out everything. So first I'm just kind of working in the overall shadows, just kind of trying to strengthen them in certain areas. Again, as I do this, I think about the light source. I don't want to have really strong shadows in areas that shouldn't have strong shadows, again, based off the lighting. Just kind of some of these little crevices right here where you would basically have your occlusion shadows, just really dark crevices where it's very hard for light to reach. And let's go ahead and explore some blend modes. I'm thinking we might try either hard light, or we could try linear burn, just to kind of see how that looks. And then we may want to kind of reduce the opacity just a little bit. Kind of zooming out here, which definitely helps. And I'm liking how that's looking. We can kind of continue to come in here, maybe grab our eraser tool, and maybe rein in a few areas that are probably a little bit too intense. But overall, we just kind of wanted to strengthen the shadows, given that we really pushed the intensity of these wrinkles right here for the cheeks and kind of flaring out the nostril a little bit more. So overall, we've made a huge change just with what little details we've added here in the face. And it's looking really, really intense. I'm really liking the direction we're taking our concept fantasy character. It's starting to look a lot more like a goblin or an orc. So in the next lesson, we're going to focus now on removing one of the final human attributes that we have here on our head, and that's the hair. He has a nice haircut still. We want to basically get rid of all that hair and get rid of a little bit of that hair that he has just right there on his chin, just right below the upper lip. So stick around and we'll see you in the next lesson.